afternoon.
Hi.
Hi. So nice to meet all of you. My name is Heather McCallan. I was a RILA graduate from Rocky Mountain RILA in 2003, which now seems like a really long time ago. And have basically been involved ever since. It's been a fantastic journey. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about all the options that I've heard about in regards to RILA staff. I really only have experience with RILA staff working one way, but do have a little experience with other conferences utilizing other ways of doing things. So we'll talk through a couple of them, and then afterwards we have our lovely facilitator here who's going to facilitate a discussion amongst all of us about how we use our staff and what might be good ideas and best practices for us moving forward. First of all, this morning I was on Wikipedia writing my presentation, and and I came across this quote, which was on Wikipedia in the definition of RILA, which I thought was really cool.
Oh yeah, it is something.
It is pretty cool. And there was a young boy who, I don't even remember the district number, and his quote was, "You know how when, in the story of King Arthur, at the very end when he's dying, he says, if you learn of anyone who has not heard of Camelot, tell them loudly and clearly that there really was that one wisp of glory called Camelot." And that's how he felt about RILA. And that was his description of what this is. So I know we all believe this. We truly do. We all drink the Kool-Aid. We believe in this organization that we love. But there are a lot of different ways of doing this. And none of them is wrong by any stretch of the imagination. I've seen this number. I'm not sure where I originally got it from. I have no idea if it's anywhere correct. But at one point in time, someone told me there are 365 RILAs around the world. It's something like that. We know there's a big number. And every single one operates completely independently and completely differently from any other RILA around the world. So that's why things like this are so great. We get to learn from each other, right? And this whole weekend is about R&D, rip off and duplicate. So, right? It's good. Perfect. So a couple different things that we have learned about. Of course, some people do different ages. RILA around the world is done for kids anywhere between 12 and 30. Some countries really only do it for kids in college. Some do it for young professionals. I mean, most of us in this room focus on high school. Is that correct? High school. So that everyone has something a little different. Of course, staffing configurations. That's what we're going to talk about in a little more detail. And the length, as all of you know. Obviously, some people do 2 days, some do 7, some do in the middle. It's totally dependent on each district. So let's say, have all of you heard of International RILA? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, most people, it sounds like, have heard of International RILA. If you have the chance, I would encourage you to encourage your RILA graduates to apply to go to International RILA. It is a fantastic, fantastic thing. It takes place a few days before the convention. This year's the first year that it's been back in a couple years. I think thanks in part to Rolo there at the back. And it's going to be really great this year in Sydney. So we're hoping that's going to be a continuing program where anyone who has been to any RILA program around the world is welcome. They have to be 19. I think it's 18 or 19. They come for a few days and do this International RILA. Instead of very similar, you're put in teams with 2 counselors that could be from anywhere around the world. When I went, my team of 10 was from 9 different countries. And we all did speak English, but of course it was a really eye-opening experience to hear about leadership all around the world and realize how much bigger this is. And we actually at Rocky Mountain RILA have incorporated several international RILA activities into our RILA now that we think have been really fantastic additions. So another great way, and this is where we learned a lot about these other RILAs around the world. There's one in Australia that's very strong. It's the longest I've heard of. It's about 7.5 days down in Australia, over in Perth. They absolutely love it. Are huge RILA junkies over there. We met a young woman from Korea who had been involved in her RILA. I mean, it really is just an incredible assortment of people that you get to meet at that conference. So a couple different ways to talk about staff. One is professional staff. You are paying somebody to show up and be your staff for you at your RILA conference. This is one, again, I haven't done this directly with RILA, but I was professional staff for another leadership conference in DC. There are a couple advantages. You really do get a level of professionalism because most of the time these people are trained, they are ready to go, and they really understand whatever you're having them do. If it's working with the youth, if it's running low ropes course, whatever it is that they're doing, they definitely bring a level of professionalism that you may not get when you're using volunteers from your local district. Training. As I mentioned, a lot of them are trained in what they do. They definitely specialize in that and can bring a lot of resources to that. Especially, I know one thing we run into in Rocky Mountain RILA fairly often is we do a lot of activities that bring out emotions. Bring out a lot of past, bring out a lot of stories that may not be so great, and may really have some hard emotional things that these children face during our week. And we don't have very many senior counselors who are trained counselors and who are trained psychologists. And that's something that we always struggle with. And so I know one of the advantages of having professional staff could be that that's an aspect that they're able to bring and provide that for you. As well as logistics, I think can be a little easier. I've heard of RILAs where they run it on a college campus, and it's a group that does leadership conferences just like this all year round. So their logistics are so easy. Their meals are already done, their space is already done, their counselors are already done. It's basically set up and ready to go. So it can definitely be much easier for them. Of course, the disadvantages is they may or may not be actually connected to Rotary. And I think that's a big strength that we bring as counselors when we work with our teams, is bringing in that Rotary connection and making sure they know why they're there. They know who's sponsoring them. They know about the great programs that Rotary does around the world, and ultimately encouraging them to become future Rotarians. So I believe what we do in RILA is fantastic. I believe it's an incredible way to affect our young adults and make them into incredible people. But I think the ultimate goal of all RILAs around the world should be to create great Rotarians. Because that's the path we want them to follow. We want them to be the future of Rotary. We want them to come into this organization and make it thrive for the next 100 years. So that focus is really important. And also I think you can lose an aspect of control when you have professional staff. If you're very used to directing your debrief the way that you want to do it, but the staff is trained otherwise, you may or may not have a choice there. So definitely both sides to using the professional staff. Rotarian stuff, which is the way that we started in Rocky Mountain RILA. It was a group of Rotarians who ran the conference. Advantages, obviously they're connected to Rotary. Obviously they do great things in terms of being able to spread the word and spread the gospel. Mentorship. We find this to be a really important aspect of keeping our Rotarians involved with our conferees. For a lot of our conferees, this will be the first, the only, or sometimes just an additional trusting relationship with an adult that they've ever had. That is such a powerful thing. For them to see an adult who is someone who is a leader in their community, a leader in service, someone who cares about others, and someone who's given up a week of their lives to be there with these conferees. A lot of times that relationship between conferee and Rotarian can last for years into the future. They really turn into someone who helps them personally, professionally, in every way possible. And that's been a really powerful component of why I would always advocate that Rotarians are really involved day to day with the conferees. And they're passionate about it. I mean, to give up even 2 days of your time is a high cost. It truly is. So it's going to be people who are always passionate about what they're doing and passionate about being there with these conferees. The disadvantage, when you have a Rotarian, most Rotarians that I know are in an elder age bracket. Not all of them, not all of them. And but there is a generation gap. There really is. And while I think that a relationship is so important to see someone as a mentor, you don't get the peer-to-peer. That's not present. And that peer-to-peer is also something that I think really infuses these conferees, but I'll talk about that in just a minute. And again, you can lose some control. That's always something that's going to be a factor, I think, with any staff that you bring in. Rotarians who commit may 2 weeks later not be able to come anymore. Or they may have a certain way that they like doing things and they're not going to listen to your training. I mean, that happens with people anywhere, but I think it can be a factor with Rotarian staff. And then there's graduate staff, students who have gone to RILA, whether it's last year, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, however you look at doing it. The biggest advantage with working with them is peer-to-peer connection. I've had several questions because we in our district now utilize students who went through the year before as junior counselors the following summer. So it's a team. There's a Rotarian and there's a counselor. Counselor went to RILA the year before. Rotarian's been in Rotary however long they wish. They work as a team with 10 or 12 students throughout the week. And I've had some questions about, well, but then isn't this counselor just a year older? You know, isn't that a problem? That they don't, they're not respected, they're not followed. And it's amazing what the perception of leader does. We do counsel the counselors not to tell their ages right away, not to give that away on the first day. Because honestly, since we do our RILA with juniors and seniors in high school. A lot of times we'll have a counselor who's the same age or younger as some of the team that they're leading. If they came as a junior and were accepted the next year. But when you walk in and you say, hey, I'm the junior counselor, I'm the one leading this team, I've done surveys afterwards of these conferees saying, how old do you think your junior counselor is? Just out of curiosity, just tell me how old they are. They always guess mid-20s.
Yes.
And it's this perception of this person is so great, they know so much about leadership, they're the amazing junior counselor, they're so awesome, and they make them think they're much, much older. And they bring us a birthday that week. Then it gets a little different, but it definitely has been, that's been my experience. I have never seen it become an issue. It's always really interesting too, anything motivational that towards the end of the week they may or may not find out. They will, of course, by the time they're offered that they can apply to be a JC the next year, they figure it out pretty quick. But then they realize that I can be like that. You know, I can lead my peers in a way that I never thought that I could because I have this example of someone who I trusted and who had that amazing relationship with me. That peer-to-peer, I think, also brings in, it helps with a lot of the emotional things that we do. We do ask a lot of our conferees to deal with things that they've come across in their lives. And it breaks my heart every single year to hear the stories of what some of our conferees have been through and some of the obstacles that they have had to face. But when you have someone who's a year older or the same age, listening, being empathetic, like Dana was talking about this morning, it brings a whole new level to what they're doing at RILA and really lets them open up. A lot of the times I think that if we just had the Rotarians, they may not feel comfortable opening up about that because, oh, they wouldn't understand. They're my dad's age or they're my grandpa's age or whatever it is. They've never gone through anything like this. They wouldn't get it. But I think having that blend of both the younger counselor they can trust and open up to, as well as the Rotarian who can really help mentor them through that and provide the wisdom on the team is a really important mixture. Disadvantages. They do have a lack of experience. These kids are 17 and 18 years old. This is really, for a lot of them, the first time that they've been put in a position like this, where they are entrusted with 10 or 12 other individuals for a week. I think that we do a great job training, and I think a lot of you probably do put a lot of time and effort into your trainings to get them experienced, but that definitely can be a factor if you just have the counselor and no Rotarian influence or anything like this. I think you could run into some experience problems. And occasionally a lack of professionalism. We do laugh that we have a big, I wouldn't call it a battle, but a balance going back and forth in our district a lot of the times, whether it's a leadership conference or a love fest. And I think if you had the counselors lead it totally, we lean way towards the love fest side, and the Rotarians come back and lean towards the leadership side. And it definitely, you need both. Because they really do want to connect with each other. That's really, really important to the younger generation. But of course, we like to have that leadership teaching aspect in there too, so having that balance. So you can probably tell by the way I'm presenting that we do have a JC-SC partnership for every team that we work with. A student who graduated a year or two out of RILA, as well as their Rotarian counterpart. When we started our RILA back in 1987, I believe, is that right? Fact check?
Say yes.
I was going to think so. It's the year I was born, so it's easy to remember. So that was when we started. We started with just Rotarians. And about 2 years after that, it was one of our Rotarians who had a daughter who had attended the year before. And he said, you know what? He said, I think she could come back with me and I'm going to have her help out. You know, I'm just going to have her run around and do stuff. And he was amazed that all of a sudden, even though she was just kind of a sidekick, she was just moving projectors or whatever she was doing, and all of the conferees kept gravitating towards her. They wanted to get to know her. They wanted to talk to her. They wanted to hear her story. And so the next year he said, okay, let's try this. Maybe let's bring back some more graduates. Maybe let's see how they can engage. And all of a sudden it's transformed into this process where we do have this JC-SC partnership. I would say too that at this point the way that we run it is the junior counselor, the one who graduated recently, is the one who really runs the show. They are running the debriefs, they're the ones working with the conferees, and the senior counselor is there to provide the wisdom and the mentorship. But when you're doing any activity, it's mostly the JC who's in charge of it. And we're giving them a lot of power and a lot of flexibility to be able to be strong leaders. And we think that we create some amazing leaders out of that. I do believe that both are necessary for the experience that we create at Rocky Mountain RILA. I think that partnership, like I said, creates a really nice balance between someone you can trust in as a peer leader and someone who can give you the experience of many years and provide mentoring advice and that sort of thing. So one of the greatest partnerships that we'll remember. This is what you get when you put Rotarians with our counselors. And it's great, because it's not only the conferees who get so much out of this, it's our junior counselors. They walk out of, after 3 years of RILA, when they've been a conferee and a counselor for 2 years, they walk out with 3 adults that they trust possibly more than anyone else in the world. They walk out with that incredible relationship. And it's amazing to talk about it. And the Rotarians, everyone that I've heard talk about being involved in RILA, the common theme I always hear is, I was in Rotary until I went to RILA, and now I'm a Rotarian. Now I feel it. Now I get it. Now this is the way my heart beats. This is what I do this for. So it's a really incredible experience for the both of them. So we like to say the proof is in the Kool-Aid, since of course we're all drinking the Kool-Aid now. We like to think that one reason that this works, and that we think this is such a great concept of having these junior counselors really run the show, and having the senior counselor there as the backup. We now have about 830 applicants to attend, and we have 480 slots total. So there is a lot more demand. It used to be, I want to say, probably about 10 years ago now. It's been a while since we really had the JC become a major player. But before that, we were begging kids to go. I mean, you've all been there, going out, trying to convince kids to apply, talking to counselors, trying to get the word out, trying to get them there. And all of a sudden, as soon as we let the junior counselors run the show and be much more involved in it, our applications skyrocketed. So it really has been their going back, they're talking about it, they're doing the advertising for us, and really helping us grow. The other number that we're really proud of is so out of our high school RILA, we have 240 students who attend high school RILA. They are all eligible to apply to be a junior counselor for the following year. Out of 240, we have 120 apply to come back, which we think is impressive.
How many spots?
Every year there's about 10, because we keep counselors for 2 years, and there's 20 counselors.
Call it 20.
Yeah. Call it, well, it's because we do young RILA too, my apologies. I'll draw a chart in a sec.
How do you choose?
You know, it's changed a lot, but I think we're at the place right now where it's a good system. All of the head junior counselors, so let me start with a chart actually, of how we're all set up, because that's going to make this much easier. So at the top, we kind of have our board that oversees everything, because we are a separate 501c3. We are our own organization. From there, you have the chair of RILA, and the chairs, because we have 2, of Young RILA. Young RILA is for 8th grade students, RILA is for high school students. From there, they also pick their head JCs. So head JC, the way it works, you're a conferee 1 year, the next year you can apply to be a JC, a junior counselor. You can be a junior counselor for 2 years. At the end of that 2 years, 2 head JCs are chosen to come back for their 3rd year as a counselor. During that 3rd year, they work directly with the chair, and that group of 3 plans the whole conference. They pick the speakers, they plan the activities, they pick their counselors, they train their counselors. All of that is run by the team of 3 that organizes this. So you can imagine, these head JCs are 19 and 20, and they're organizing conferences that are 6 days long for 300 people. It's pretty fantastic. So same thing over here, each of these chairs have their head JCs. So between the 3 conferences that we have, that's a total of 9 people who are really the heads of these conferences. Now then they are the ones, like I said, who pick their counselor teams. So the way that it works now is we consider it a draft. So all of our applications come in November for the following summer. Usually during Christmas break, these 9 people set a morning when they have a meeting. Before that, they've read all the applications, and they, as teams of 3, have kind of decided their list of their top 20. Or however many they need to pick that year. And it really does go around the table. These guys pick one person, these guys pick the next, those guys pick the next. You go around picking your top candidates. Yes?
Go ahead.
You want to talk about our recommendation process?
Go ahead.
Okay. We asked all of our senior counselors and junior counselors during the course of our week at RILA to evaluate all of their team members. Watch how they do it in a team environment and pick 2 and no more than 2 that they think would be the best facilitators of a group as a junior counselor. So they've watched them for the whole week and picked those out. You got some great kids out there that may not be the best junior counselors. They pick the best two and recommend them to be junior counselors.
When you
So-
say senior counselors, are those the Rotarians?
Rotarians.
Old guys.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Old
So
white hair,
like really
ago.
senior.
the gray hair.
Just kidding.
The junior counselors for Young Ryla, have they already been through the full Ryla, or are they just done the Young Ryla?
That's a great question. All of our JCs came from Ryla the year before. They all come from the high school version. So we have started bringing back some of our companies from Young Ryla to help out the following year. But we think at 13, they're probably a little too young to manage a team. So we usually have the high school.
Keep
Yeah.
asking
I have
questions.
another question. So, little confused how you run people from Young Ryla, like, let's say I'm 13 and I went to Young Ryla and I thought it was awesome, blah, blah, blah. Can I come back to old person Ryla?
You can when you're a junior and senior in high school. So that's one of the questions we get a lot in our district is, when are you going to create a 9th grade Ryla? When are you going to create a 10th grade Ryla? Because they're so pumped up and they're so ready to go. But at this point, since now Interact is able to be in middle and high school, that's really our mechanism for funneling them through. So we encourage at both of our Ryla conferences, we have people come in and talk about Interact and really promote Interact as a way to keep the Ryla thing going and to keep that excitement. And then yes, they are considered as applicants for Ryla.
But let me answer one other piece with that. Having attended Young Ryla does not give you an advantage to get into senior Ryla. You still have to interview and be selected, the same as everyone else. But we do have a lot of them
It's up to the club.
that do come, so
It
40,
is.
So
50
you
is
say it's not required, and you say it doesn't automatically get you in. You said, I like how you said it's up to the club. Whoever was talking to earlier said you had, 80 applicants for 20 slots. Is that going to be the tiebreaker every time? The kids that were at Young Ryla are going to get the slots?
It's up to the club.
I'm asking, it's up to the club. What really happens on the club level?
You know, it's all
Want to have that
over.
Ryla experience.
It is all over. So a kid that did not attend, maybe they moved in after that age, they really have a good shot that they can get into the senior Ryla?
They really do. And each club really does have very different guidelines. The only thing that we give them as a Ryla board and as the Ryla organization is that they must choose students who have either demonstrated or could demonstrate the potential for leadership. That's the only guideline they get. And so I know there's a group of clubs up in Greeley, Colorado. There's a couple clubs up there. They all get together and interview all their applicants together and then select a group to go forward from that. Some, if you're a kid of a Rotarian, you get in. Some, if you're a kid of a Rotarian, you won't get in. It's really dependent on the club.
I have another question
Yes.
right there. So I understand that you have, your JCs and they're there for 2 years. How do the head JCs get chosen?
That is up to the chair. So for example, Kurt's the chair of one of them this year. He looked at his 10 second-year junior counselors last year, interviewed them, went through an application process, and decided who was going to work best with him and who was going to be the best to serve in this capacity.